he would have been great. But, so, you know, why go through that?
Mayor, did you check that thing is working?
Yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a grueling undertaking.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this business meeting for the month of December for the Board of Education. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag's at the back of the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a number of students here tonight, and they will be moving forward at some point, and we'll get on with our agenda. I always say this to the students. We're so proud of our students that they, not only are they deeply involved in activities, but they're doing well in school as well. One of the reasons they're doing well in school is they use their time well. I'm going to guess that for their for this drama club, that they do that with all the activities they have, all the planning. So we are not offended as you finish here if you leave and do homework, okay? So you're welcome to stay. We have an exciting meeting, but if you have other homework kind of things to do, don't feel bad about leaving. So with that, I'd like to call for adoption of the agenda, and I would like to ask the board's indulgence. We have an item, an information item, a proposed scholarship fund, and then we have late in the agenda a movement on that to actually establish the fund, and I'd like to do that action item at the same time that we do the information item. So if we could do that, could I get a motion on the agenda? Mary, second Jim. All those in favor? The agenda is adopted, and we will move forward with Board of Education comments and reports. And I should say, Mrs. Rajat was on her way home from work. I don't know if she had a flu shot or not, but the virus hit her, and she's home with a fever. So she sent her apologies in a last-minute email. So, Jim?
Thank you, Mr. President. I had three quick things tonight. The first one, I would like to congratulate my colleagues at the Naval Academy for yet again surviving another thrashing by the Army. So congratulations.
He's your friend, right? He's your friend.
Secondly, I wanted to thank Mrs. Blaber for her leadership in bringing the communications policy to fruition. She led our committee, and from the initial meeting through the report, and brought it home. So hopefully tonight it'll be passed, and it'll be all the way home. So thank you. And third, I was at a very good meeting this afternoon of the SAVE Committee, and it impressed upon me that we have a number of procedures and policies in place that go a long way to protecting our schools and our students. After that meeting, I went home to have dinner and saw on the news that the city school district in Los Angeles was shut down by a bombing or terrorist threat generated far outside the district. 700,000 students were not able to go to school, at least for a day, perhaps longer. And it impressed upon me that with all the preparation that we've done so far, it's still a work in progress, that there's still much to be done for encountering this new threat, which, as Los Angeles points out, is more than a possibility. It's a new threat that I think we need to not only consider but engage the community in solving. We've got a lot of community resources available to not only evaluate that threat but respond to it. And I look forward to working with the committee, with the board, with the district in making our schools really safe.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Todd?
So just one update. Those of you who know me know I'm a computer techie kind of guy, so I was thrilled when I found out that Shattuckon invited me into Mrs. Cushman's fourth grade class on Thursday of last week for the Hour of Code. So basically what this was it's across the whole country, and the point of it is to get kids at an early age, especially in the K through 5 grades, excited about computer programming, potentially leading to coding and developing games. So I went into the class for an hour, and the kids, for an hour, basically they play games, but they're coding. So there's a Star Wars game, there's Minecraft, and it teaches kids to do commands. So it was very interesting. I mean, the kids were excited. There were some kids that were just going through that thing and had, all these lines, and there were other kids that were slower with it. But it was really amazing, the ability, and this one child said, "You mean I can make a video game when I grow up?" And they just loved it. And so, I did a little research into it after the class and was talking, and I wanted just to share just a couple quick statistics that I found interesting. Right now in the U.S., there are over 600,000 open computing jobs right now, just in the U.S. alone. By 2022, this number will be 1 million. So there'll be 1 million open computing jobs. If you look at New York State specifically, right now in New York State, there are 39,200 computing jobs open. But this year, we will only graduate approximately 3,166 students with a computer science degree in the whole state. So there's a lot of room there for growth. Across the United States, only 1 in 4 K through 12 schools have computer programming as a class offering. And there's only, I believe, 30-some states in the whole United States that have computer programming as an allowable class. New York is one of them. And then right now, the last fact that I thought was interesting is right now, 67% of all the STEM jobs are in computing, but only 8% of the STEM students graduate with a computer science degree. So there's a big, I don't want to say disconnect, but there's a lot of opportunity there. So I think that's going to be a big field. It is a big field today, and it'll continue to be a big growth for our students.
So for these drama club kids who are here who have aspirations of going on Broadway and then somehow you have to pay the rent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do this
Learn how to
as
type.
well
Yeah,
when
learn
you're
how
in
to
college.
type.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Listen to Todd on this. Yeah. Mary?
Well, at the risk of, the Mutual Admiration Society, Mr. Trainer was an instrumental member of the Communications Committee, as well as Mrs. Gray. So looking forward to having our colleagues look at policies for first reading and talk about, how that product turned out and if people are satisfied with it. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Really, the only other thing I wanted to do was wish people the best of the holiday season and just say, with tremendous gratitude for the generosity of our community that just continues at this time of year, but throughout the year, to show its heart. Veterans Day ceremony, the Got Your Six effort at the high school, the support for a staff member who lost their house to a fire, Habitat for Humanity, the food pantry donations, the coat donations, the mitten drives, and Scano, yes, on Friday had a blood drive that collected 35 units of blood that will help 100 people. So I just really am grateful and proud to be part of a district where people have such big hearts, and I know, we're going to hear a great announcement today about a scholarship fund as well, and just really, really proud of our community for rising to every occasion.
Thank you, Mary. Gary?
Okay. I have two things I'd like to speak about. Both of them are state level things that are going on that obviously reach, not obviously, but do in fact reach down or potentially reach down into the district level. There's certainly been a lot of coverage in the last several days about the regents and their new direction relative to testing, Common Core, and perhaps to a lesser degree the annual professional performance review. And just a couple of observations. There's certainly been enough detail. I was personally a little bit concerned when it looked like the state assumed that they would simply be able to make the changes that they desired relative to the percentage of the test would count in the APPR, because at least under the race to the top, there was a federal mandate that 20% be included in the APPR. On the state level, 50% was a consequence of legislation that the governor extracted from the state legislature during the process of putting together the budget last year. Now, I believe the state would like to be able to ignore that legislation, but it is in fact law, and I don't think they're going to be able to simply go ahead and change it without actually addressing that. Of course, the governor doesn't want to admit that he had anything to do with creating that situation in the first place, and the state legislature never wants to admit that perhaps they made a mistake either. So that's the problem. We have to have a bunch of grown-ups governing us, and I'm not sure that we do. The other thing that I was concerned about here was while I certainly agree with the recommendations, I would hope that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past with a timeline that is too expeditious, too ambitious, and too far-reaching or too all-encompassing. We got in trouble because pressure was put on the state, and then in turn the state put pressure on everybody else to implement things before they were ready to go, particularly the testing regimen. And the backlash on that is what we've observed. And so I would hope that given a 4-year moratorium on counting test scores in the assessment of students and teachers as well as administrators, that they would take the time to get it right this time and not repeat history. The second thing that I would like to talk about was something that came to my attention. I know it was in the administration of the two groups that I have something to do with were very much aware of it, but I wasn't. And what I'm talking about is a change in the regulations for special education. Apparently the state department and the regions are looking at changing regulations that would enforce to a greater extent, maybe not in terms of percentage, but at least in terms of compliance, the practice of inclusiveness. And of course, inclusiveness is designed to benefit all students. The students who are special needs students get the benefit of classroom instruction by teachers who are especially knowledgeable in the areas that they are in the classroom for. The students there have the benefit of understanding that there are people that have special needs, and they're part of our society, and we all have to be able to work together. And so there's no doubt in my mind that in reality we have both an academic benefit and a social and emotional needs benefit that comes out of the least restrictive environment and inclusiveness. However, there are apparently districts in the state where the level of inclusiveness has not been what the state would desire. This does not happen to be one of those. Our approach to this is not, a benchmark where these students will be special needs students and then you will have your general regular population. Our approach is a continuum of services, which I think is especially enlightened and important because it means we can have the opportunity to phase in and phase out supports and services to students based on need, not on some arbitrary category based on some score or whatever. So that's very much to our advantage. But I think it's something we need to be aware of. When the Deputy Director of Special Education from Capital Region BOCES responded to a question I asked, and Michelle Mile had also responded, and some of the information I gave you was in what my remarks was obtained through her or reinforced by her. What he was saying was that there's no question. Maybe I better backtrack. I was concerned that perhaps, given the amount of emphasis on academic achievement and the difficulty we were having in reaching those levels of academic achievement with our special needs students, that there was a question as to what approach would be best in achieving that aspect, and also whether it was complementary, that is, academic achievement and and emotional and social development worked hand in hand, or whether they were in effect kind of working in opposite directions. And I was assured that when the programs are operating properly, with the resources available and the professional development available for all of those who would be involved in the program at whatever level, regular classroom teachers, specialists, and so forth, that indeed that there is a benefit to the students in all of those areas when we have inclusiveness. And that was something, I really wasn't absolutely sure of, and I'm very, very greatly relieved and very happy that is the conclusion.
Thank you, Gary. Bob?
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Jim. In addition to football over the weekend, I would still like to affirm that we're off to a very strong start in this district. In this meeting, I think we'll see quite a few things that point that out. We're recognizing our drama students. Typically, we're often recognizing the athletes, but I think this is the first time I've been here where the drama students will be recognized for the fine work they do. We will see the outcomes of a lot of the deliberate thought on communications to the community coming forward in a lot of these policy changes. And we'll also see the community itself going above and beyond and supporting what we do at Shen with some of the donations that are coming forward. I also see that it's a very strong start in that both at the national and the state level, there is a significant movement of backing away from mandating to school districts, and that's a very positive sign. And this is the time as a district, we need to step up and figure out how we're going to fill that void. The best example I'm seeing of that is when I attended the Acadia Partnership team several weeks ago, I introduced the homework and grading policy. And I think this resonates with a lot of people in a very intense, personal way. Almost every student you talk to, every parent you talk to has an opinion, okay? And rather than us trying to figure this out as a small group, we have this survey that's out there. Okay, hopefully you've seen it. What I like to do is I'd like to have a show of hands of who has not completed the survey. And I'm one of them, okay? But it's due on the 23rd. Okay, so quite a few people have completed the survey. I only saw 2 or 3 hands go up, all right? But what I urge you to do is to talk to your peers, talk to parents. This is the time you should speak up, because you can create one collective voice that will create the outcome that will be what this district wants to do. This is not, and when I explain to people, this is really a move to standardize, and usually when you standardize, you create some simplicity, and there's a lot of other additional benefits that come about from doing that. And I think that's a great approach, but this is the chance to hear what's happening, what people are concerned about, and really make changes. And I think this is probably the steps we want to be, the future steps we want to bring forward. How do we fill this void? Because I've been around this table for the last 4 years, and often it's, Dr. Robinson, Dr. Wood, they come back and they say, well, the state now said this for this policy. It's coming to us this way. Now we're going to have to adapt this way to better support it. I think that's going to go away. I think this is something we need to figure out what the community wants to do, okay? And there's a lot of thought that goes into how you put the survey together, how do you get the right information coming back to us. So I applaud all this work that's being done. I look forward to seeing the outcome, much like we've done with the communications that are coming out today. So that's all.
Thank you. So for those in the audience who don't understand this rivalry thing going here, we've got West Point on one side of the road, we've got Annapolis over here, so this is an annual thing that we go through. I'm giving away my work history, where I worked in the state with doing a lot with facilities. I just want to call attention to the fact that we have some great things going on here, and thank you for the weather. We're paving parking lots. That doesn't sound like a big deal. It's a big deal when they wear out, and we look at where our hard-earned money is going to go, and it's the last thing we want to put money in. We had some money left over from some projects and a break at the end of the year, and Augie, you must have been doing some special dance over there, but this weather has been perfect for doing this work, hasn't it? And reseeding and resodding some of the areas that get a lot of play and get worn down over time, and we've learned over time that you can't just throw seed on in the fall and in the spring start using those fields again. So that's going on, and I think starting today, people would see at the entrances, both on 146 and on Mill Road, we're working on new signage, and we have a large signage project that will go over a period of time, but the beginning of that are some electronic signs which will go out to the road, which will provide, it's not part of our communications policy, but it'll provide a way to communicate with people as they go past this campus. I don't know what the traffic count is on 146 or on Mill Road, but it's huge, to quote our famous car dealer. And so these are good steps I just wanted to call your attention to. And with that, we'll move on to public comments. I'll call our students up, and while they're coming up, I'll also provide the introduction. If any residents would like to speak, this is an opportunity for you to speak, address the Board of Education. The board will not address specific comments, but ask for your name and address in the case follow-up is necessary. The board reminds residents that the public comment period of our meeting is only one item on a long agenda. We therefore ask that each speaker be as succinct as possible and the remarks be limited to 2 to 3 minutes. We'd also expect that residents speak in a respectful and courteous manner so as to model proper civility and decorum for our students. We have a lot of them here tonight. We promise to do the same. Residents may also contact the board via email at boe@shennet.org. All questions come into the Office of Public Information Officer, are shared with the board or superintendent as appropriate. Policy questions, concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational questions, concerns are typically addressed by the superintendent or designee. And we have our students here to report.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. We just have a few announcements from the Senate today. We had a meeting yesterday. We talked about doing a semi-formal dance. We're going to call it the Snowball. We have in the past tried this a few times, and it hasn't been so successful. So we set a date, and hopefully we'll get it publicized enough that people will want to come. It's going to be January 30th in the cafeteria at the high school. Shen Helping Shen. We've been doing candy cane sales during lunch periods, and they've been very successful. We picked a family to donate the proceeds to, and so we're pretty happy with our success there.
Congratulations.
And last time we were here, I think we started talking about the anti-bullying event. We still don't have a set date, but we know it's gonna be in the spring still. So that's definitely gonna happen in the spring. And then dodgeball, we have a set date for dodgeball, which is March 17th, which is a Thursday. And I believe we have the Friday after, like that day off. So
Recovery day.
yeah, recovery day for all the bang ups. So I believe that's it that we have from the Senate. So thank you.
And I have an announcement that I thought you might give, and I didn't want to take your thunder, but it's not just a Senate kind of thing. It's the high school. Next Tuesday night, December 22nd, is their first Got Your Six game of the year. Many of us who attended the Veterans ceremony at the high school this year, on very close to Veterans Day, learned about this Got Your Six program. It's it's one of your military terms, right? To got your back. And this is a program that both the high school administration and the athletics are both promoting. Got Your Six is a national not-for-profit organization that helps promote all great things that the veterans do within the communities. At this game on Tuesday night, they will be selling T-shirts with a Six logo on it to our students. Information and about tickets can be found at the Shen homepage, on Twitter at Shen Athletics. And the goal is to help raise awareness about Got Your Six and all the great things veterans do every day in our community. So this is something that will be going on at the and be called out at the girls' basketball games, wrestling matches. They're going to talk it up this weekend, and just Tuesday night, be at the high school, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Residents, would any residents like to address the board tonight? If not, we'll move on to superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Just four topics just want to mention briefly, and ironically, a couple board members alluded to a couple of them. Mr. Trainer addressed the SAVE meeting, our SAVE committee. It's a legislation that says by law we need to have this particular committee. Clearly, over the years, the committee has evolved and will continue to evolve. And just a point of information, not only to the board, but also to the public, we're pretty fortunate that here within the Shen community, we have a state police barracks off 146, and we have a sheriff barracks at the mall. So we have a pretty strong contingent, if you will, of law enforcement within 5 square miles of any of one of our schools. And something that we have done, and they've been great partners over the years, is having liaisons. It's not unusual to see a state police car, a sheriff car driving through the campus or driving around any of our off-campus schools at any given time. And something that, since Sheriff Zerlo became sheriff of Saratoga County Sheriff, something that he wanted to do was to have much more of what I would call community policing, so to speak, my term, not his, where we have an officer, a sheriff deputy that's assigned as a liaison. So he visits the schools on a regular basis, and which has been great, because in the past we had a state police, which was a school resource officer, but because of funding, state funding, that went away. So we have those great collaborations to, again, address the safety issue. And the second piece that Mr. Trainer alluded to, the issue in LA, and quite frank with you, it's an issue that schools across the country are dealing with in terms of how do we in fact plan and better prepare for the potentiality of a terrorist attack or threat. And our insurance company, we have been presented for the past 4 or 5 years here for our efforts with safety by Utica Mutual. Utica Mutual is a pretty large insurance company with a lot of resources to access information and experts. And something that Mrs. Carmen is working with them right now is actually trying to get information and potential experts to help enhance our plan, if you will, our current safety plan, that to address what we see as the new wave of potential threats to schools. So more to come with that. I want to share with the board and certainly to the public to let people know that these are issues that while others might be sleeping, we're awake trying to figure out how do we best provide safety for our students. Related to safety, another topic, area wellness, is one that's a constant piece on the horizon. Last time I was here at the board meeting, I mentioned that we have some collaborations we're working on with Captain and the library and some other community partners surrounding the whole issue of heroin use of kids. Today I attended a mental health seminar sponsored by our counselors, and they brought in experts from, and I'll send the board a little blurb in Friday bulletin, which was great to see our counselors, middle school, high school, engaging with people whose professional jobs every day to deal with mental health issues, not only at the high school level, but also at the college level, so we can be better equipped again to assist and support our students here at Shen. Great thing to talk about. In terms of innovation, and it's ironic that Mr. Gilbert mentioned he's a techie, we have some tremendously smart people on staff here, and not only smart in terms of intelligence, but people in terms of trying to figure out what's happening out there and how do we bring it back to the context of here at Shen. And I'm not sure if she's here tonight, but Mrs. Barra just today sent me an email, and this kind of fits right into this conversation. And this, the term that she shared with me, so not my term, in terms of future-ready schools. The board has heard me talk about future-proofing our facilities, and now we're talking about future-ready schools, and it's a movement that really talks about how do we tie in all the various STEM-related type things into schools. And when you look across what we're doing here at Shen, a lot of neat things happening here at Shen. Project Garage, for example, was here doing a live stream through GE, a connection GE with kids in robotics. The hour of coding, where now today our staff developers have created a online training for teachers to continue the coding sequence. So it's no longer an hour. We want something to continue to sustain itself over time from Project Leadaway. So a lot of neat things happening, and I think that the focus that Mrs. Barry is going to try to shift with the math and science, particularly starting at the elementary level with the future-ready schools, is really going to, again, position us as society evolve and we evolve as a school system. And the last piece last topic area related to the rigor issue. Mr. DeLallo alluded to the fact that this past week, the governor's commission reported on everything from Common Core to teacher evaluation to a little bit of everything, and some other things that we didn't anticipate as well. And the report was pretty comprehensive. The report was surprisingly effective in the sense that it provides opportunity to develop plans to move forward. Oftentimes, when you have commission reports, you read and you wonder, okay, how do we actually do any of these things? To the contrary, many of the things in that report were actionable type initiatives. As a result, the Board of Regents, just this past Monday and tonight, today, again, the Board of Regents is also meeting today, acted upon the implementation of some of those things. But the teacher with test scores being delayed until the 2019-2020 school year, with the potential of looking at the Common Core standards and potential overhaul by December 2016. So that's being studied. So again, these are some actionable things. And Mr. Delalo alluded to the fact that in the past, the issue we've had is, and I said, and although we have a lot of people might be anti-Common Core, what people don't recognize, what Common Core has done is actually ratcheted up the level of rigor that we have to do as kids. The question is not the what, though, but how do we effectively do it? And I think that's where the disconnect became in terms of our ability to plan and have a roadmap to effectuate much more rigorous standards. So we're absolutely looking forward to seeing how that's going to transition over the course of the next several years as well. And the last item, just want to mention, again, and encourage, Dr. Wood and others have been working, Mrs. DeFisciani put together the survey that's out there now. I think as of this morning, we were probably 2,200 respondents to the survey, if not more, and we anticipate by December 23rd, we probably have 3,000 or 4,000 people respond to the survey. At that point, we'll try to make heads and tails out of the information. The survey was designed in a way that we can try to do some crosstabs and make some sense of who's more focused on what things. And at some point, possibly even the January 26th meeting, I'm not necessarily going to commit fully to that to the board yet, to try to have some kind of report back to the board, recognizing that the survey is just another source of information. It's not a decision. It's a source of information, and from that information will eventually lend to recommendations to the board in terms of policy and ultimately a decision in terms of practice as we move forward over the course of the next, quite frankly, the next year or so in making the transition with homework and grading. So a lot of good things happening here at Shen. Clearly, as we get into the holiday season, I think people are much more thoughtful about the sense of unity and what community means, because it's what happened in the holidays. People think about family and think about others, and similar to Mrs. Blaber, I certainly want to say to Board of Education members, thank you for your tremendous service, and even though it's not the new year yet, Happy New Year, because we won't meet again till after the new year. Your service has been tremendous, and because of your leadership and your governance, I think we're in a good place as a school district, and more importantly, we have a community that's encouraged by what we're doing, and there's certainly a lot of challenges to face, but when you have people who are encouraged to face those challenges, we certainly embrace them as we move forward. So again, I think those are the main things I have, and we have a presentation coming up. I don't know if you want me to introduce that piece of it. So Mr. Casey changed the agenda to have the scholarship recognition, and I just met the Mallorys, and I would ask, can you come forward, Mr. Mallory? And also Mr. Flint, can you come forward? Just met the Mallorys tonight. We have corresponded via email over the past several months, and they'll certainly speak much more to their intent and purpose of being here tonight, but I certainly want to say that the Mallorys, I think, epitomize what we trust and hope that as a community we are. We are a giving community. We are one that tried to ensure that when opportunity presents itself, we try to make things better. And certainly I would like to have Mr. Flint and the Mallorys come forward, and Mr. Flint, if you want to say a few words, and then I would certainly ask Mr. Mallory to share their expression as well.
Sure. I think it was late spring or maybe early summer that I was contacted by the Mallorys out of the blue, asking what they could do in the way of contributing some funds to a scholarship. And that's not an unusual thing, but I think what's very unusual is the amount that they're willing to present to the district on behalf of students who really have economic disadvantages in their life that may have prevented may have prevented them in the past to even consider college or university beyond Shenendehowa. And I think the gift that they're going to be bestowing on the district is going to put kids in a fantastic position moving forward. And so we met, and they listened to some of the things I had to say. They went home. They created a document that they thought that their family could work with. We reacted to it. We went back and forth a few times, and they have come forward again with the idea that they want to present our district with a significant contribution on behalf of students. And they said to me, one of the reasons they wanted to do it is because they wanted to give back. And they're really giving back, and I think we are certainly indebted to you for your generous gift, and we know that it will impact many kids moving forward in the next many, many years. So thank you very much on behalf of the high school.
I just wanted to state that our two sons grew up here at Shen, and we think the programs at Shen were fantastic, far above anything we ever experienced in our younger years, especially the World Cup World Lit program at Shen. Both our kids experienced that, and it made a big thing. What happened to us in our earlier years, we had a few fortunate opportunities at about this age, and we were fortunate to proceed accordingly. But we have a few colleges we were thinking about making contributions to, but to us, you need a little incentive to start somebody off a little bit earlier. So that's why we decided we'd come here to the high school. This is where it begins, and there's a lot of people here at the high school who, they really got to flip a coin in their senior year and where they're going. So let's push them a little bit, give them a chance to do something a little bit different, a little bit better. And that was the whole purpose of why we came up with what we did. So.
Let me just, would you like to say?
No.
So, so for any of the, the drum roll, the Mallories are donating $90,000 to the school district tonight. And this plan, we're going to hear this word again, Oliver, that we heard, future-ready schools, right? And we can focus on that. And I'm sure it's going to make it on some of our documents, our goal statements going forward. But we need future-ready students to have future-ready schools. And this provides opportunity. When I read through this, having been involved in this community for a long time and knowing the needs in the community, when I read that people are looking for folks who need financial aid, there's a preference given to students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Families that might think it's an impossibility, they can obtain a yearly stipend of $4,000 a year under the preliminary plans for 4 years. This is available for 2 or 4 year students. Good academic standing and accountability. I appreciated that when I looked at this. If you want to come back in year 2 and get the next stipend, you've got to show a GPA of 2.75 or above. And even to qualify for this from the high school side, a GPA of 85 to 88. But with conditions and with a committee to review, including the Mallory family to participate in this, I think of, we moved 3 years ago, and the biggest fight I had, sorry Todd, was with Time Warner, because we lost the phone number that we'd had for 40 years, and they wouldn't transfer it, and it became an issue between Verizon and Time Warner. It was the best thing that ever happened to my family after I finally gave up the argument, because I didn't get any more of those 5 o'clock phone calls asking for gifts to something that I didn't know about. I so appreciate, and this board so appreciates, people who focus on the local piece and know that, as you said, it starts here. So we are extremely indebted to you, to both of you, for your thoughtfulness and for this challenge, because I think this is a challenge for youth. This is going to be highly competitive for all of us who attend our awards nights, we know that this is an outstanding scholarship that is being offered. And we want to see kids really striving for it, and I'm sure you do too. Sure. So if, yeah, so could I get a motion to, we need a recommendation that the Board of Education establish the Mallory Family Scholarship Fund and accept an additional donation to the fund in the amount of $90,000 from the Mallory family. Todd? Second. Jim? Any additional comments? All those in favor? With gratitude.
With gratitude.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Fair enough.
How about a round of applause for the Mallory together? And I know we have a lot of students here, and we're going to move forward with Drama Club recognition.
Certainly, I would like to ask Mr. Latano and his drama club crew to come forward. Mr. Latano? So because these kids are so dramatic, no pun intended, I mentioned to them, hey, you guys have a minute to reenact the entire play. And they're like, oh, we don't even need a minute to do it. But on a serious note, one of them will, or maybe several will be spokespersons, but I asked them to describe not only the play, but just briefly their experience as, you guys could come through, as being a part of the theater productions here at Shen as well. And Mr. Latano, if you want to do the initial comments, or are you going to have them do it?
They can do it.
Okay.
They know how to speak up.
We'll see. Hi, I'm Sarah. I was the president of the drama club, and this year it was Midsummer Night's Dream. It was a piece by Shakespeare where two people, they're in love, but their love is kind of forbidden. Reminds me of another Shakespeare play. We're not going to go into that one. And so fairies come in. They have their own deal going on, and they just kind of get two different people to fall in love. One of them already in love with somebody. It's very complicated, but basically everything starts to get messed up, and it's just a giant Shakespearean mess. And so there's a lot of insults that are thrown, Shakespearean insults that are amazing, by the way. And overall, at the end, everything gets fixed because the king of the fairies, Oberon, is just done with his minion Puck, who's just messing everybody's business up. And so then they all live happily ever after. So that was the play that we did. My experience, I was the production stage manager, and it has been a really rewarding experience to do this. I love this club so much. I just pretty much call for people when they have to change the scene, or I read lines to them when they forget it, which is often. But it's been a great experience, and I'm just kidding.
No, I know, you're good.
And it's such a great club, it's such a great community that more people should join, in my opinion. But it's just a wonderful experience.
Mr. Latano, you want to offer any comments as the advisor? So Mr. Latano is also an elementary teacher for us, music teacher at elementary level, and does the drama club at high school.
Yeah, so this is my third year as the advisor of this club, and it's a pleasure working with these very talented and hardworking students. We have crew members who's here from the crew, and who's here from the cast. We have both cast and crew. And who's new to the drama club this year? We have a bunch of new students. So I feel like it's a great opportunity for students to not only have an outlet for their expression and their artistic output, but also to gain real-world experience of getting in front of people and speaking, like this event right here, and for interviewing in the future and things like that. So there's a lot that it that we actually have interviews for the students to apply to the club if they want to be in the crew, and auditions for the cast. And then we rehearse for about 2 months, and we have a lot of parents who are back here who are a huge part of the process, as well as to putting up the set and all the food to feed the kids during the long nights that we rehearse and things like that. And so it takes a lot of people and a lot of work, and it's certainly a wonderful club that we offer here at Shenendehowa. So I'm proud to be the head of that for this group here. Thank you for having us
We're
tonight.
proud to have you here. Shenendehowa has a reputation with its drama, among other schools. This is the place to find out where the action is and what's going on, and to see it done just like it's done on Broadway. So congratulations to all of you, and I really think you were right to do a shout out to parents and the supporters, because they're like associate members of your club, right? They sign on, and maybe they don't know what they're signing on for, but it's a long haul and a tremendously important role that they play in this process.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great job.
Want me to continue?
Sure. I don't know if there's any drama in our facilities
No.
department overview, but we'll move on to that.
The next thing on our agenda, one of the things we try to do throughout the year, bring different departments to the board. So for one, I think it's great for the respective administrative supervisors of those departments to have a chance to interact directly and present to the board. And two, it's an opportunity also to update the public on some of the things that we're doing. Because oftentimes people, quite frankly, take for granted that things happen in a very organized manner. So tonight we have a combination of both facilities and operations, Jay Tortolot and Ken Patnaugh, who will give the board an overview. The intent is not to have an extensive, detailed presentation, but just an overview, as you can see from the graphics that was presented to you, just so you have a sense of how they function and how those two departments actually interface with each other.
Good evening. Jay Turtelot, Director of Operations.
Ken Patnaugh, Director of Facilities.
Okay. And for the Operations Department, what we oversee is the custodial and the cleaning of the building, which consists of some minor repairs, minor maintenance tasks, and also for setup for school events and community events, activities, and so on and so forth. We also oversee in the Operations Department the furniture and equipment needs, moving, transporting, of course, cleaning and some repair of the equipment. And we also, through once a year, we evaluate the equipment with the building principals, see specific needs and plan for the future as well. Also in the Operations Department, we oversee safety and security. So the security folks, there's 9 full-time and part-time officers that we have on the campus. And also with the security end of things, the safety plan, oversee with the building level safety plans, the district level safety plans too. And also we instrument the incident command trainings and the all dealings with the sheriffs and the state police on active assailant and our mass evacuation drills. In general, that's a basic overview of the operations department.
For the Facilities Department, we oversee general maintenance district-wide, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, locks, hardware, doors, thousands and thousands of different pieces of equipment that we put our hands on daily. The maintenance department is made up of 2 shifts. I have a maintenance mechanic and a carpenter on days, and I have 3 maintenance mechanics on nights. Bigger shift on nights because naturally we can get into areas that we can't, gain access to during the day. In addition to the maintenance staff, we have our energy management supervisor that oversees all our HVAC equipment, thousands of pieces of equipment district-wide. In addition to that, he oversees the locks, the keys, the hardware, for the district, as well as working with Augie for some of the construction needs when we're doing a project. The grounds department consists of 7 grounds employees, one of which is a grounds crew chief. We do athletic fields. We have over 32 athletic fields district-wide. One of the goals we're tasked with is laying out the fields for every event,
mowing, lining, you know, to the extent that we can, making them safe. We evaluate them, and as Mr. Casey mentioned, renovate as needed. We just finished 2 fields now. We're looking in the future to do these on a rotation basis. And the grounds department's also tasked with snow plowing, which this year they've been doing a really great job at, so. And
Be prepared.
yeah, and we kind of gauge our success in our workloads from the Q Center work order system. So far, since July 1st, we've completed over 2,000 work orders district-wide, and that helps us review the projects in the future that we need to do based on what areas we're spending a lot of our time. If we're doing a lot of plumbing repairs, we can narrow that down to what buildings a lot of the, you know, additional work is needed in. So that helps us in our future planning as well. So.
Jay, I had a question on the security side, or maybe a comment. I noticed, especially at the roadside, where your security people will be, but also the town security people. So that's a real cooperative effort that goes on every day, right? I mean,
Every day.
at
It's a
every one of
daily
these
thing.
locations.
Yeah, we have an agreement with the town that they supply us security services municipal-wise with the Central Park Center Road at dismissal, and then with Octane in the
Octane,
morning
yeah, I
with
go by
arrival
there, yeah.
as well.
Yeah. And that works out well, it looks like, right?
Very good, yeah.
Hand in glove
Very
thing,
supportive,
yeah.
right.
How about other comments, Mary?
Just an observation, you know, most of the time, people can show the output of their work, but a lot of what you do isn't necessarily visible unless you're not doing your job, taking out the trash and, you know, painting and all that. And it's not something that should be taken for granted, because we know that there are neighboring school districts with leaks in their roofs, that students can't use facilities, and there's a certain like lack of pride that develops, and what you do kind of sets the tone for what the expectation is here for students and employees as well, that, you know, we are proud of our facilities, we take care of things, we expect people to kind of rise to that, and for the benefit of the students, but also for the benefit of the taxpayers who make such a huge investment in our facilities. So I just want to say, you know, people may not necessarily notice that you do it, but they will surely notice if you didn't. So I'm just grateful for what you do.
We have a great staff.
Thank you.
And I think people in the district don't necessarily know how good they have it here until they, you know, when you're traveling, going to other
Visit
school
another school.
districts, we do a great job. You guys and your teams do a great job, and a lot of time that can get taken for granted, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
And I feel good on the maintenance side, because the last time I ran into Ken, it was at Lowe's, and that's where I'm doing buying my maintenance supplies, and he's doing the same for here, so.
Must be doing something right.
Something right. Mrs. Carmen,
Good evening.
you give a lot of policy here, a lot of first reading.
I think 62.
Two categories, right?
Yes. The first batch of, that we have on the first page are basically, as was stated in some of the comments, a goal of the Board of Education was to improve Board of Education communications. So as a result, there's the policies on the first page were being put forth for first reading. Would you like me to go through each one?
No, that's okay.
Because there's a lot.
I think there's, yeah.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, no, Mary, I don't know if you want to give any comments from the perspective of what the overall goal was here.
Sure, I think what the committee was asked to do kind of grew over time, but kind of came to a head with some public comments and feedback that we took to heart as a board, and the board president, Mr. Casey, charged us with looking at how do we communicate as a body, how do we receive and issue communications to the public. And so our committee, Mrs. Gray at that time was also a board member, and she participated with Mr. Trainer and I, just looked at and offered some reflection on each of the policies that we have as a district and that relate to communication. And then one other thing that kind of evolved over time that really wasn't so much established in policy, a little bit, was what about videotaping of board meetings, and what role does that play, and how is that used, and so on. So that, the group that we see here is kind of a refresher on communications, and if we agree that that's how we would move forward, we'll see.
And I think from the policy perspective, Jim,
I just wanted to add one thing. This also came about in an effort to refine how the public communicates with the board on policies in advance. And part of this is driven by trying to get the policies out there earlier, particularly into the school community, those who are most involved in the schools, and have them be able to communicate to the board ahead of time their thoughts so that we can take that into consideration in refining it or ultimately voting on it.
And not only communication, but transparency of communication.
Yeah. Thank you. I had written down a couple notes, just in terms of what, from an overall simple goal, we're looking for transparency, predictability of response, consistency of response, efficiency, and the efficiency piece, I'll mention that because people will start to see some changes just as it relates to public comment. So we're going to ask people not to be intrusive. We're going to ask them to fill out a quick form that gives us some identification how we can contact people, but also I think there's some people, and I think the committee felt, that there's some people who come to a board meeting who like to say something to us, but they're not overly comfortable coming up here. If they want to write a question down, we will respond to that, and we'll provide a form to do that, and we'll keep it confidential, but it's I think, a better way to do things. Continued use of technology, and the overarching theme here is to respect varying views. And I'm always impressed, Oliver, when we know that we're on the short end of complaints from some parents on an issue. And it happens. It happens when you have almost 10,000 students. And I take your words to heart. Parents, I'm not offended by that. Parents, if they're not advocates, then I'm offended. People need to be advocates for their position. We want to provide a process that they feel respected and responded to. And I think we've been trying to do that, but I think it's one of those things, Mary, you're exactly right. You just kind of, you look at it and it's a time to go back and refresh. So that's what we're trying to do here. So we don't vote on first reading, right? No, we just don't. Okay, second reading. So you can move on to the...
All right, so the next batch, and I'm assuming you don't want me to go through each one of those as well, but they're the policies that are coming forth for first reading. They're financial policies that were reviewed. Many of them were changed to reflect current practices and/or possible changes in the law, and also there were some just to be updated.
I had one question for Kathy. I saw this twice in the policy, this three-word term, and the last one I saw it in was 5340, and it's a term, and we'll do things with keen borrowing practices, and I wondered if there's a definition of keen. Is that
That's my term.
Is that, okay.
That's one of my little favorite
I
terms.
just want to let you know that I read.
You saw that, good.
Yes.
That's stealing.
Oliverism, there you go.
Okay, we'll accept it. It's a good thing, right, Jim?
I did have one thing, and just take a look at this if you would. Policy 5241, labeled property tax exemptions. For some reason, I was unable to access that, but it looked as if policy 5240 addressed property tax exemptions. So I'm not sure if they were...
That's not the merge, but we'll look back at that. Because a couple of them we merged, we want to make sure. But we'll look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll look at that to make sure.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for
Just a quick comment to the board. Something that we're working on, and members of Policy Review Committee will see it, at least see a form of it, at least at the next Policy Review Committee. Mrs. Carmen has been working probably over a year now to have policies on a rotational cycle. So subsequently, that's why I see all the finance policies at the same time, because we try to do them in, because we don't want to change one month and realize the next month the other one would have been impacted by the first one, so we try to do them as batches. So what we're trying to do in light of one of the policies from the board communications about first reading to second reading is to establish a schedule, if you will, recognizing that schedule may change because laws may change or needs may change, but to at least, back to Mr. Casey's comment about predictability. So as a board, you can look, I have here, and the board have, for instance, presentation schedule. So as a board, you can have some sense of, okay, these are some of the policies or at least topic areas that will be coming down the pike in February and in March, and here's how a first reading go to a second reading, those type things. So it's a very transparent process, because what some people may not realize is that the reason why the board doesn't sit here like tonight and read through every policy is that we have a policy review committee with board members on it, as well as administration on that policy review committee. Then also the board gets the policies well in advance of the meeting. So the reading and the back and forth takes place prior to coming here for the first reading. So we want to make sure that that process is clearly laid out. And so we'll be discussing that process at our policy review committee to making sure that what we're thinking is consistent with the proposed policy change here on one of the communications policy as well. So the transparency and the predictability piece is there, and quite frankly, it's just better planning. If we have planning, then we don't have to have the hiccup moments of, oh my God, we have updated these policies in years, versus we know they're on a rotational cycle. They'll be on a 1 or 2 or 3 year, whatever that rotational cycle might be for certain policies to be reviewed.
I think, Jim, issue that you mentioned as it relates to predictability, and we've tried to stress this in here, is as it relates to the review of the policies, we have generally, this month we don't, 2 meetings a month, a business meeting and a study session. Our goal is to have the policy presentations, the first reading at a business meeting, and then have the approval subject to not having major issues with something at the following business meeting, which would be a month later. So anyway, just wanted to point that out because we did work through that language. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
Just an observation, that there is a policy review committee, and the members are from all different constituency groups. And recognizing that there's a rotational cycle, and it isn't, I'm not trying to make it sound like a complaint, but that's a lot of policies for people in the course of their sort of extra time to look at. And so my concern would be that we kind of smooth out a little bit not only the quality but the quantity, so that we have good, thoughtful conversation at policy review and people not feeling, and I don't know if they do or not, but I'm just thinking that maybe this is a lot to look at one time. Makes perfect sense to do them in batches where they impact each other, but find a balance of War and Peace and something else.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll move on to consent items, treasurer's report, and the minutes. Can I have a motion to accept the consent items, both the treasurer's report and the minutes from November 3rd and November 24th? Jim, second. Todd? All those in favor? We'll move into action items, business items. The first item is item 1, approval of construction manager contract extension, Freeman Project Management Associates. Several people have referred to Augie already tonight. He's out there checking that work that's going on. Let's have a motion. Let's do that. A motion to approve that extension. Gary? Second, Jim? Any questions or comments? Other than so all those in favor, with appreciation for the great work you provide to us, backing us up out there in the fields and in the buildings. Thank you very much. That's approved. Move on to bids for groceries, items 2, and the contract special ed tuition, Latham Centers. Can I have a motion for items 2 and 3? Mary, second. Todd? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Move on to disposal of obsolete furniture, equipment, and textbooks. Have a motion on that? Bob, second. Mary? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. We have a donation, sizable donation, recognizing for Oranjan playground equipment. We have a motion on that. Jim, a second. Mary? Sizable donation, right?
With gratitude.
This is Mr. Fields and Karen's kids,
Yes,
which
yeah.
is, such a nice tribute to Mrs. Fields
Yeah.
and his work.
and great community. And that particular, I mean, if you're at the library, you're at the Y, you come out the back, there's a lot of community use of this as well, so, yeah. All those in favor? Motion carries. We had a second scholarship piece here, scholarship and local grant donations that were on our listing. Can I have a motion on that? Mary, second Jim. All those in favor? Approval of additional clubs, non-cash clubs, and classroom accounts. Can I have a motion on that, please? Jim, second. Bob? All those in favor? And we have approval of the STA retirement incentive. Let's get a motion, and we'll see if, Oliver, if you want to say anything on that. Gary, second. Bob?
Just two modifications I mentioned to the board. We're trying to ensure that we capture the potential pool of retirees. It's an opportunity both for the district as well as potential retirees. Recognize that anytime we have retiree, we run the risk of intellectual loss, if you will. So we'll, with the board approval tonight, we'll distribute this to potential eligible employees. Mrs. Bush will do it through her office, and we'll see what numbers transpire as a result of this incentive. Again, it's one that provides both a financial benefit to the employee and the district, so it's a potential win-win opportunity for us as we move forward. Yep.
Can you just remind me of the deadline?
The deadline is January 26th, because we're planning to have a retirement seminar session here prior to that. And also, we try to time it so recognizing retirement is such a big decision for people, and opportunity for families over the break to have those discussions and see if it's something they want to contemplate, because it's not just a person retiring, typically it's a family decision that's taking place. So we want to make sure we have that opportunity for people to engage in those conversations during the break.
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries. We'll move on. Mrs. Milat, special ed placement. Can I have a motion to accept the recommendations for special ed placements? Todd, second Jim. Any questions of Mrs. Milat? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. That was quick. Thanks for walking up. That's right. We'll move on to personnel. Mrs. Bush.
Good evening. With the approval of staffing recommendations, there are three brand-new recommendations for probationary teachers at this time of the year. Maria Barkley for music, replacing, yeah.
Kathy Mason.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Kathy Mason, who was here for many years. Jessica Nappy is going to be our English as a second language or English as a new language teacher. She is currently assigned to Chango, and Jessica is actually here this evening.
She's here tonight. Okay.
I'd like to recommend Jessica for that position.
Get a chance to meet Jessica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's actually been a real trooper. She's been in for quite a while subbing for us as we were doing the interview process, and she's thrown right in and done a really nice job. So we're recommending her tonight to a probationary appointment. Thank you.
It's rare that we get a recommendation on somebody that they've already got their
their
lanyard
badge.
on. Yeah, so that's good.
And Andrea Zenluder, and she's going to be the reading teacher at High School West, replacing Joelle Smith, who moved to Octay to first grade. So there's been some replacements and moving around. So those are the three recommendations. We have also on the staffing agenda tonight approval of the administrators for recertification of the Teachscape, which is part of the APPR process, and transportation changes.
And you have an addendum, is that included in what you talked about? Do we have an addendum?
Transportation changes.
Yeah, maybe it was a transportation.
I believe there is.
Heather Fisher.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. It's another staffing person just put their resignation in
Okay, yep.
today or yesterday, and we won't have another board meeting until January, so we wanted to act upon it at this time.
So could we have a motion to accept the personnel recommendations? Todd, second. Mary? All those in favor? Accepted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Mrs. Carmen's coming back. Second reading. This is the approval part.
So we have tonight a few policies that I'm recommending for second reading. We have 3120, Relations of Municipal Governments, 3140, Flag Display, 3251, Parent-Teacher Association, 6350, Temporary Employment to Replace Absent Classified Staff, That's policy is being rescinded. And 7330, searches and interrogations.
So could I have a motion to accept those, and then we'll, Jim, second? Gary? Any questions or comments? Jim?
Just a question. In publicizing these policies, did we have these on the website as of the first reading?
Yes.
Okay. And that's our policy going forward, as I understand it, so.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That was another
Yeah.
change that came out of this, yeah.
And now that we have, everything is paperless, since we've gone with the agenda paperless now, just to point out what the public sees is this, they'll see the agenda with the links, and so essentially they'll be able to click on it and access those respective policies. So what's being showed here on the screen is what, when we send the public link out, recognizing that last time we had to relink some things, but once it goes out with the agenda, we have those links out there.
And that's true with the first reading as well as the second reading?
Yeah, so you'll see that as well, Mr. Trainer, just to kind of scroll back up.
Yep.
You'll see anything blue is live active links. Yep. So that's the beauty of technology now.
Could I make a suggestion then? Because that is the beauty of technology, but for instance, in the case of 6350, on the link and the agenda, it doesn't note up for rescission.
Policy rescinded on the
But
agenda.
It says that on the memo, but it doesn't say it on the BOE documents. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't say it on the agenda. If you go to the agenda.
It's right there.
When you
Yeah,
say this,
yeah.
So. Right.
yeah, so here,
No, that's the memo. If you go to the board agenda
Right here.
for today,
Yeah, just on the agenda, back where you were, yeah. It
Right.
doesn't say it on there that it's,
it doesn't say it there, and if people clicked on the link for 6350, it wouldn't say it there. So if those were the two
So we
points
just
of
need a
entry, we
notation.
just need a
Yes.
notation.
Yeah.
Right.
yep.
yeah.
Yeah, because we could
Okay.
even
Yeah,
put a
that's not a problem.
watermark behind it that says
Exactly, it says
rescind.
draft, it says rescind,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yep,
Good
thank
point.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Got that, Cal?
Motion carries. We'll move forward. That's the end, really, of our business. We'll move forward. If anyone from the public would like to comment at this point? Seeing none, we do want to wish everyone a happy holiday season, a happy new year. We won't be seeing you until after the new year again, and our next meeting will be on Tuesday, January 12th. And I think, just for the board members, that's the night we're going to try to redo the yearbook photos.
Yes.
So,
Please,
right?
6:40.
Yeah, if we don't have other
Remember that.
reasons to be there, we'll send them no. That being said, can I have a motion for adjournment? Mary, second. Bob. All those in favor? Thank you all.
Good meeting, sir.